Hello and welcome to the Gifted Ed Podcast. I am your host, Megan McCarthy. We are grateful for the opportunity to share this space with you today as we talk about the complexities of giftedness. Today we are excited to welcome back Lisa Wiltz and Eric Youngquist for part 2 as we explore the element of play with gifted learners. By the end of this episode, you will have a better understanding of how gamification can deepen engagement and rigor for gifted students. You will also have some ideas and strategies to help you use meaningful play within the classroom.
And gaming, it to me, is different than play in a way, too. So I'm trying to get my head around playfulness versus gaming, maybe, or are they synonymous? You know, maybe that's what I should be thinking of as like a playful approach that has imagination woven into it, that has, again, the open-endedness and the complexity of thinking, but it's not necessarily
Teaching
a game
them to
with winners and losing.
Playing a game versus gamification versus running a simulation. They're actually a little bit different, each of them. Like play is you are interacting. Either the teacher's helping you interact or you're doing something fun. Playing a game is you take the game as it is and you play the game and then you do something with it. And then gamification is using game-like strategies in a room to motivate normal learning using the same kind of incentive systems, etc. And then a simulation isn't really a game, although it looks like it. It is a teacher-led kind of game or interaction meant to teach you about a time period, strategy, point in history, something like that. They're all slightly different and need to be handled differently when you put them into a classroom.
And I think that's such a helpful differentiation that you just kind of broke down. Because if I'm listening to this and I'm a teacher and I have my own classroom, how would I, it's more than just putting a Monopoly board right on the desk and say, let's play today, kids. And granted, there's benefits to that too, but how do you really embed it into the learning experience and the teaching experience for your students?
So depending on which of the four, because I use all four of them at various points. Play would be advisory lesson. I'm talking a little bit about being good, caring, empathetic members of the classroom, but you guys need some de-stress time. Here's some time to play a game, to learn to interact with each other in some unstructured time, getting to know each other, and those soft skills of taking turns, negotiating, etc. Stepping it up would be using a game in a classroom. On the lower school level, if you're playing, I used to love 24, where you'd get 4 numbers and you'd have to add, divide, multiply. You're using the game as is. When I use a game as is, for debate, it's when they use coup in order to kind of learn to be confident, say things confidently, present something. I used board games as is today with my group. We're doing a lesson on westward expansion in the Wild West and talking a little bit about misconceptions. So they watched a movie about what really happened with the Great Plains Indians. They read about what Wild West towns are. They have a Harkness packet on how violent they really were. And then I let them play a set of games. Last Spike, which is about the Transcontinental Railroad. Trails to Rails, which is Catan spreading westward, and a homestead game where they had to bid and build up. And using a game in that case is you have to use the game and then debrief from it. So the question that they're going to have in their Harkness discussion on Monday is, where does popular fiction and understanding end, and where does real history start? And pointing out, the Wild West wasn't as wild as the gunfight shows make it look, based on this evidence. Popular fiction makes building the Transcontinental Railroad into a game where you just put money down and it's all of a sudden done. It's leaving out the human story. And then their end assignment from that, because there should always be, the game is the process to get to an end product, not the end product itself. Same thing with Harkness discussions. The Harkness discussions, lead into a writing assignment. So this leads into the discussion, which leads into the writing assignment. What could we do to be more historically accurate? And what is kind of the fictionalizing of the Wild West, leaving out that people don't understand? That's where the learning comes in. Can they see primary source, board game, where the story gets sanitized they leave out some of the less pleasant parts because they already mentioned, well, this totally leaves out the fact when we extend westward, we've left out the Native Americans. Well, how could you add that back into the board game to make it more accurate? And that's where the gifted learner really thrives, like pointing out these inconsistencies and how could I do it better. Gamification is adding reward systems or making something important. So I did my lesson on this. I have house groups in my classroom. And I use it to teach them to work with each other. Every month they get a new house group. They learn, I need to be able to work with other people because those people change all the time and we win together. So they'll do, I'll say, all right, house groups, whichever house group finishes this assignment first gets some house points. They'll do the last letter game together where they have to work together. They have to start a city, state, country, or continent with the last letter of the one that came before it. So it incentivizes them to learn world geography and stuff. You have your household group has a choice of doing these 3 things, and you'll get to present out using those gamer strategies of rewards, time limits, choice, etc. The simulation is learning the interactions that happen in history. So that's when I do the Roman Senate. Later on in the year, we do exploring the New World and talking about, supply and demand. So you've designed something that looks kind of like a game, but is meant to teach something from it. And then they have to write and debrief from this. So when I go into something historical, I have a lesson, I know I want to teach X, Y, and Z. I start with my goals of what I want it to do and the end product, and then work backwards. How can I get there? So when I wanted to teach the Peloponnesian War and lead into this, why didn't Greece ever unite? I then said, all right, I need to get a situation where the kids are against each other, but don't quite realize they're against each other, in order to teach, why they couldn't get along. Well, I then went, all right, well, these cities are against each other because of historical reasons. What are these historical reasons? Put that as a secret objective in the game, and then work backwards from that. Here's how this game is going to work in a controlled situation to get to the point where the kids all turn on each other and don't realize that I've turned them on each other and how that applies to the real world.
Would you say, when you have kind of talked through those 4 different types, I guess, if you will, in thinking of motivation, right? Because within the gifted profile, again, sometimes getting that 100% is the motivation. Do you see a difference with it being an internal and an intrinsic motivation switch when it becomes like the house, when they're split up in houses, or in the simulation where they've really taken on that human experience versus I just want the W? Which isn't bad, but
it is. And a lot of the kids are out for the grades. And I use that in the very first one is the win situation, I say, is part of their grade the first time around.
Okay.
So there's the kids who want to win because they want to win. And there's the kids who want to win because it's a grade. I don't actually make it like a very large part of the grade. There's a little skin in the game because it makes it real. And I spend a week building up. You guys are going to be playing a simulation. I don't think all of you can win. And then they each get a packet. I've done the research for them about what their city is like. And they have to present to their class, this is my city. This is why we're awesome. And you should all agree with me. It's a week of building up this, we're better than everybody else. And then dropped into a situation. And then they go, all right, well, we wanted to win. But that's the simulation's goal, is to teach you why they didn't get along. And I think it's just managing the expectation, that not trying to get them into whatever it is.
Yeah.
As a teacher, you preface it, you build it up, you explain what it's going to be about, and you give them the goal, either directly or indirectly, of what you want them to get out of it.
Could I add something in about if teachers were trying to find a springboard into how to add play into the regular curriculum, how to get something kind of started. Because if I were teaching third or fourth, I know that there's so much curriculum that is essential for them to be able to get all of their academic foundation. So, that might be my priority. But I think that there is a component of play that could be just described as playful. And playfulness also has a component of movement to it. And we know that movement helps to enhance one's memory. And it goes back to, if it's not in the hand and the body, it can't be in the brain. So coming up with ways to make things playful, even if it's not a full-blown game, could be a nice way to incorporate it into just your daily experience. For young children, we do things with role-playing and dramatizing different social-emotional learning aspects and doing puppet shows. And we also do things where they tap their head and clap and understand particular vocabulary words by adding that movement to it. And I think adding movement adds a level of playfulness that's a good entry point for any classroom teacher to add the aspect of play into any lesson.
Yeah. And I would say that's probably felt in all schools, right? Is
Absolutely.
How do we balance minutes of the day and especially rigor, right? With just like adding a game into the, because at first glance, it might not be easy to sell necessarily. But I think if it's really done well and done with great thought, and that it's being used to introduce topics, and it's, really
but there's a learning component to
Yes.
it, and be able to say that it has a learning component to it, and start small. Like I've been doing this for a while. My favorite one has been built up over 4 years now. And one of the other things that gives ownership is I tell the students, well, what did you like? What did you not like? And then I make changes, and I tell the students the next year what changes I made based on the feedback. So they all of a sudden realize that they're actually making life better for the next class that comes through it too. It started out as a one day we just negotiate with each other, and it was focused on the event. So they did some research into it, and then we had the class discussion and they wrote about it. And then the next year I added in a board because they all said, I want to be able to visualize this. And then the next year they said, well, I hate dice. I want to be able to control these things. And then they're playing a game, but it also has the educational component. Like the cards they have are different Greek units. And they'll sit there and look at them, and they'll read the backgrounds on them, and they'll have to talk about, well, this does this. Sparta's better at this. Athens is better at this. And research and doing presentations, you're like, all right, it's a presentation. I'm giving a day for a presentation, but the kids they had to go through and highlight this packet of research, put together the presentation, present it well to everybody. They had to hunt up extra facts to make it their personal one. So I hit the research goal. I hit the summarizing goal. I hit the analyzing goal. I hit the public speaking goal. And they were all engaged because it was them presenting their city. So it's better than, all right, guys, do a worksheet on Sparta and Athens. How much are you going to remember a week from now? I'm enthusiastically doing this research, looking for other things to add to it. I'm working on my research terms to try to fill in the X, Y, and Z that Mr. Youngquist put on there. I'm not only meeting my research goal, but the kids are actively engaged, and that's what they're going to remember. So it's a multiplier to the value of whatever product you are doing, whatever goal you're trying to reach, if you have engaged and motivated learners. And that's really important to remember.
Well, and I think how much student choice you've embedded into that goes back to choice play, right? With the 3 and 4-year-olds, it just is going to look different. But when you've embedded so many ways that students can personalize that assignment, maybe that is the big kid version of choice time.
The options, options provide opportunities.
How can teachers make time for play without sacrificing core content? We're trying to think of different settings and different teachers that are, teaching different grade levels and in different environments, which is hard.
I would say you aren't sacrificing. You are simply replacing doing it the way that you've normally done with a different way of doing it. So
maybe the word
yeah.
supplementing
Yes.
comes to mind. You're supplementing and shifting as opposed to
revising. It's a different method of teaching.
Yeah. It seems like you've just substituted in a different way to get to the same objectives.
Right. My objective is I want them to do great on this DBQ and understand Greek history and how it affects things.
Yeah.
And instead of doing it through worksheets and lecture, I've done it through a more interactive method. It probably adds 2 days to my lessons.
Yeah.
But I would say it's 2 days spent teaching other skills in addition. And especially for social studies, I sometimes feel like I'm a low man on the important skill. Like until you get to high school and you get the AP test, like, all right, a lot of schools sometimes cut out social studies. So I feel like I have a little more freedom than maybe other classes.
Yeah.
But if I'm a social studies teacher and people don't like social studies, I kind of wonder what I'm doing as an educator, because I have the ability to do the fun things that maybe other classes can't. But I also view it as helping all the other teachers. So me doing analytical writing is going to help science and science fair. Me doing the get up talk, how to do good presentations, and we do feedback on the presentations too. They do a little summary that we give constructive criticism to make them better. That's helping science fair too. When they're reading the nonfiction and pulling the information, I'm helping literacy and reading be better. For my lower school people out there, for the ISAT test and everything else, I'm the one who should be teaching how to do nonfiction reading. And they're pulling those skills in order to do the presentation. I'm making them better readers.
Yeah.
And I think too, like just by having the mindset of incorporating play, you can do things like have a choice board where you want to have something as a particular outcome. They need to express what they've learned in a given unit. And there can be something that kind of looks like a bingo board that has 9 different choices. And you can show me your outcome through either drawing a poster board, making a PowerPoint, having different ways that the knowledge is then expressed, and having those choices is a component of play. Being able to use either your strong suit to express your learning or reach out and try something new. I would consider that a component of a playful learning environment when you have choice and how you express your knowledge.
So, have you ever had parent feedback because you've embedded games into the curriculum? We've embedded, again, like we said, like a winner and a loser, right? We've embedded that not everyone is going to have the desired
and my child's
outcome.
going to be disappointed at
Yeah,
some time.
they're going to have
Somebody's gonna lose
disappointment.
out of it.
So we've embedded adversity into that experience. Have you had either families reach out with concern about that or students reach out with concern about that? I mean, it's a great tool to just normalize this is how we build the skills to grow and develop.
I've occasionally had, especially with the first one, because I make a little portion of it like their desired outcome. Well, somebody's going to win, somebody's going to lose. Yes. A, it's a very small part. B, it makes it real for them. And C, the goal is to try to negotiate, find the best path forward. And that's why we do the debrief at the end. Everybody didn't win. It's designed for everybody not to win. And the learning comes more from, you learn more from losing than you do winning. Because if you won, you found one way that worked. If you lose and you discuss it, you find 4 ways you can do it next time that will hopefully work. And that's how I always phrase it to them. Yes, they didn't win this one. It was a tiny portion of their grade. They had an extra credit assignment that could make it up, so it doesn't affect them overall. But it makes them think about it, right? Well, they came home and they were upset, right? Well, yeah, they were really upset that they didn't get the full credit because these other people blocked them. Like, all right, well, yes. And did they talk to you about what they want to do differently? Well, yeah, they really wish that, X, Y, and Z. All right, so they learned from it.
You've internalized it.
Yeah. They realized that they could have done something differently and they want to do it next time. And this is, did they tell you how they wish they'd done it? Yes, they told me. All right, so that's great. They learned from it. They learned that they can do something differently to be even better next time. So they're going to come out of it a better person, a better learner, a better empathetic person, confident person, etc., because they had a setback now in junior high. They're going to come back with 4 or 5 things to do it differently and better. They're going to be a better person next week than they were this week because they lost for 1 hour of one day. And that's the investment you're making.
And I think with young children, I love that word that you used, Eric, with internalizing when there's a struggle. And it can be even something where there's a scuffle over a shovel. I really wanted the blue shovel, and they didn't ever give me the turn with the blue shovel. So I went and ripped it out of their hands. And then there was a little scuffle in the sandbox. The thing that they're learning then is how to interact and do things differently the next time.
Yeah. We don't buy another blue shovel.
Yeah.
Well, I think you have
maybe that's not the example to put in.
No.
But I'm just thinking how that opportunity arises when children are disappointed.
Yeah.
And sometimes as adults, we just don't want our children to be disappointed. We want to take away those roadblocks so that they don't encounter disappointment. And we're really robbing them of the opportunity to handle that disappointment and to build that resilience when the stakes are really small.
Right.
We want them to get frustrated. We want them to hit a point where things are challenging, because all learning is challenging. And if things are really easy, then we aren't truly learning anything. So we want children to hit roadblocks. We want them to come across challenges when the stakes are really very minimal.
Yeah.
And then figure out, like you were saying, Eric, that way around, how would I do something different next time I encounter these, and give it a go in a different way.
Yeah, I definitely echo that. It's that you're learning now so that the next time you hit this situation, it's that much better and that much easier for you. They are designed that you will struggle. You will stress for an hour, but you're also playing a game with your friends. It was probably the most stressful and the most fun hour you've had in this class in a long time. The 8th graders do a reflection at the end of the year. What did they learn from class that they felt was useful? What are their best memories? And a lot of them, 75, 80% of them cite the simulations that they do in my class as the most memorable and best thing that they did in social studies. And then the most useful thing is the writing assignments, which are all based on these simulations, and getting them ready for high school level analytical writing, because the breaking down of what I did wrong during a game and breaking down what's wrong with the situation that I need to write about for an AP test are the exact same thing. One is a lot more fun and they'll enjoy, but they'll apply it to the second one.
And in a mantra that you and I could both use is, I can do hard things. We start that in the 3s program, just raising our hands and saying, I can do hard things. And then followed by, I might not be able to do it now. I can't do it yet. And those pieces of resilience that we practice in preschool, I think, follow all the way through the school.
And there's something to be said for making school fun. They're going to do a lot of learning during their day. Giving them something to look forward to a week ahead of time that their brothers have played up for them for like 2 years. Oh, you're going to love 6th grade social studies. Don't we want to do anything we can to get them to enjoy the environment that they're in too? I think that also has something to be said for it. Doing something that makes learning enjoyable, even if it's a small part of the curriculum. They all remember the simulation. Doesn't matter that Mr. Youngquist did 5 DBQs with them, like 20 annotations on this other paper. They struggled through that for those good points. That's what they remember. And they've also internalized all the skills that went along with everything you've done that year because they enjoyed being in that room.
You're kind of just sliding in the back door of learning, kind of like when we want to see if they can pattern and they're playing with cars. You just say, oh, look at these cool cars. There's so many different colors. I wonder if we could make a pattern with it. So you kind of just sliding in the back door.
Well, thank you so much, Lisa and Eric, for being here today and sharing your expertise and being part of this conversation. We're so grateful for everything you just gave us.
Well, thank you.
We want to thank you for joining us in this space today. Please subscribe to the Gifted Ed podcast to stay up to date with our latest episodes. Stay tuned for our next episode that continues to unpack the complexities of giftedness.